Let's talk about Sunday morning worship services really working together as a unit right now on the Church Revitalization Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast, brought to you by the Malphurs Group team, where each week we tackle important, actionable topics to help churches thrive. And now, here's your hosts, Scott Ball and A.J. Mathieu.
Welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast. My name is Scott Ball. It's like I've never said it before. I'm joined by my friend and co-host, A.J. Mathieu. I only
Good
say
morning.
that every week.
Yeah, you should have that one down and ready to go.
Yep. It's been a little bit since we recorded an episode, so cut me a little slack. Cut me some slack. Today we're talking about the missing link. The missing link between your sermon and your worship service.
We need some cohesion.
We need some cohesion. And if maybe you're listening to this and you are the senior pastor and in a sort of a solo pastor environment, and you've got a volunteer team, or maybe you're in a multi-staff environment and you've got a part-time or full-time worship person on your team, regardless of your situation, this is going to be a helpful episode for you because there really can be better synthesis and collaboration between the preaching ministry of the church and the worship ministry of the church. And we're going to talk about how to increase that today and improve that connection today. But before we dive into that, I just want to briefly talk about your favorite thing and mine, the Healthy Churches Toolkit.
You're right. It is my favorite thing. I hope someone else shares my enthusiasm about it.
Well, here's the thing about the Healthy Churches Toolkit. The thing about the Healthy Churches Toolkit is if you, pastor, are like a lot of people, you've got a lot of disconnected tools. You got your social media thing, the content that you're downloading. You've got maybe some sermon retooling tools that you use. You've got maybe some learning library that you're a part of. You've maybe got a Google Drive with some different templates. Who knows how many tabs you have open right now of various tools and resources, and every single one of those requires a different subscription. And what we've done in the Healthy Churches Toolkit is we have created an all-in-one resource that functions like a leadership operating system to help you lead your church forward in your vision and in leadership development. And so we'd love for you to learn more about that. If you go to healthychurchestoolkit.com, you can see an overview of the various features and things inside of the toolkit, and you can sign up free for 7 days. We want to really encourage you to do that. If you have not done that yet, you are missing out. So go to healthychurchestoolkit.com, sign up free for 7 days.
There you go. That actually fits in with today's episode, talking about having multiple things work well together and simplify. I would think, I was thinking about this as before that amazing advertisement for healthychurchestoolkit.com. I was thinking today's topic may not actually necessarily be a felt need. It may not be a pain point that anybody is actually waking up feeling.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that, you're just cooking along. It seems like everything is fine, and it is. You're not going off the rails because of what we're trying to, maybe elevate to a conscious level today. I think this is one of those. This is, you can go from 9 to 10.
Yeah, or from 7 to 10.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of people don't know what they don't have, but if you've ever been to a church where there's really tight collaboration between the preaching and the worship ministry, it's noticeable from the pew. They're like, okay, what tends to happen is things just get so programmatic, so robotic, so routine. Just load up, in the jukebox, give me 3 songs, and then we're going to do some announcements, and then I'm going to get up there and I'm going to preach, and then I'm going to do a closing song, and we're out of there. And, it's pretty much just the responsibility of the worship person figure out what those 4 songs are going to be. And it's the responsibility of the pastor to figure out what's going to be taught on. But it's not an integrated whole. It's disconnected. The planning is siloed. So when you are in an experience or when you're at a church, and And this isn't just for, because side point, I mean, some people might be listening to this and be like, well, yeah, this is for those like super creative, black box theater style churches with the lights and the fog, and that are trying to create some experience. And I would say no. I mean, even if you're like, we're traditional and we've got a liturgy that we're trying to build, or we have a pretty conservative approach to the way we're building this. It doesn't matter. The style doesn't matter. What matters is that integration and the planning. And regardless of what style your church has, you're gonna see the difference when there's that high degree of collaboration. So,
Yeah.
I run the risk of running into our key points here, but just want to sell that vision.
Well, let's jump into it because our first point is actually building a shared vision for Sunday. And so that
Yeah.
collaboration that you're starting to talk about is really where that happens. And this, again, this is something that can happen in a very small church or a very large church, but it's really just who who needs to get together and have a conversation before Sunday. And so, at the minimum, that's going to be, probably the pastor or whoever is preaching and whoever is primarily responsible for leading the worship space. Now, there's additional elements that could be brought into to this, Scott, especially maybe in the churches with more of a liturgy. They've got scripture readings, different people. A lot of our more liturgical churches are going to have more people involved in leading a Sunday morning than a lot of contemporary churches that might really have a pastor, maybe somebody does a welcome, a worship pastor that introduces songs, maybe or may not speak very much, and pastor preaching a sermon. So other churches might have more people coming up and doing different elements. But all of that can work together. And this first point is have that vision for that Sunday be made known to the people that need to know it so that everybody can be thinking, towards the same ends as we prepare.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of moving parts in running a worship ministry and getting things ready for a Sunday morning. And I know this firsthand. Like, I was highly involved with this, and so sort of a practical, real world scenario here. What often will happen is worship leader goes into planning center, and pulls up sort of the service order cue sheet for the next 3-4 weeks or whatever. And they may preload three or four songs or however many you typically sing on a Sunday or for the next few weeks, so that the band who is scheduled for those various weeks gets a chance to kind of go in there and see what songs maybe they need to practice, rehearse, or maybe if there's a new song that you're wanting to do, so they need a couple weeks lead time to download those chord charts and start practicing that song. And then everything else kind of just gets filled in either by the pastor or by some other leader into this music plan that you've maybe put out for 3 or 4 weeks. But again, those things are disjointed. It's like worship guy picked songs, pastor comes in, loads in other pieces. What would be better is if you actually take the time to create, and hopefully you're doing this, create a preaching calendar where here's where we're going in the text. Here are the series that we are running. Here are the key points or the key themes for each sermon for each week. Now, you don't have to have the whole year, every detail planned out, an outline for every sermon. But even if you were just to hit the high points, like here's the key theme, and have the next 6 weeks of that roughed out. So then when the worship guy goes in to start putting in songs, he can start thinking about, okay, here are songs that align with this theme now, rather than just, here's something cool I heard that's new from Elevation, and we should play this song. Now I'm trying to look at, here's the theme, and let's pick this song. So there's some work that has to be done by both players involved, by the pastor, and sort of thinking through the preaching calendar, and here's where we're going in the text, and having that in a way that the worship person can actually see that early. And then obviously in the worship person kind of planning, putting it out. One thing that I highly recommend is at least once a week, a touch point. We've talked about this in previous episodes. I used to do this. We used to have it was like a half-hour meeting on Tuesday mornings at 7:30 at McDonald's. We'd go get breakfast, and we would just talk through this upcoming week. Where are we going? And that was before band practice. So that way, I had already picked songs. I wasn't waiting till then to pick them. But if we needed to make an adjustment or swap something out, or we had an idea, it gave us an intentional moment each week to collaborate. So do what works best in your environment. That maybe 7:30 in the morning doesn't work on a Tuesday. But we were doing that because we had a part-time worship leader who was working with us, and he had a full-time job. So we could do 7:30 on a Tuesday because he came and had breakfast before he went to his full-time gig. So I would say no excuses. I would say it's definitely possible for you to make this happen. It's just a want to.
Yeah. And that kind of goes into our second point as well. Just kind of move into there, clarify who owns what. The pastor, senior pastor, or preaching pastor for that week would be a fair way of saying should own the vision for that worship service, for what they believe God wants communicated that week. And this doesn't need to be like a heavy-handed thing, but there should be an understood ownership in the proper spaces between these leaders and how they collaborate with one another. So the pastor would be setting the vision for this. Here's what I believe God, wants us to communicate this week, and then a worship leader would know their space in that and be the complement, the right complement for it. But sometimes this isn't clarified. And I think we've seen some perhaps more unhealthy environments in which could be a little bit of a battle going on there, perhaps.
Yeah.
Some leadership strain between, well, who's making Sunday actually happen,
Right.
And so this should be a healthy leadership environment. And if there's strain between any parties, that's going to need to be worked on.
Yeah, I mean, this is not unimportant. Think about Sunday morning requires a lot of coordination. And again, this isn't just true in a high production environment. I'm not just talking about the church where there's a lot of maybe
Tech
AV
and all kinds of
elements or
stuff.
tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's even more true in those environments, but even in a very low tech type situation, there are a lot of moving parts. And there needs to be a high degree of collaboration in the planning. But when Sunday morning rolls around, who is helping to guide and direct and keep things moving forward? And you really ought to lean into skill sets. Maybe the worship guy is better at kind of directing and going, okay, hey, you're up next, or here's how we need to run this thing. Or maybe it's the pastor is, but like kind of set ego aside and go, okay, who's best at sort of being, for a lack of a better term, sort of the stage manager of getting this thing rolling. I've sat, and I'm sure you have too, through a lot of services that were distracting because people didn't know, oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's me. I'm supposed
Mm-hmm.
to come up now. And again, I know I can hear the feedback already. Some people are going, well, we're not a high production. I'm not talking about high production. I'm talking about distractions.
Yes, that's a different point that needs to be said. Yeah.
I'm not saying it has to be this well-oiled masterpiece of a theater production. I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
even in the most simplistic, basic kind of a service, when people are like, "Oh, I'm supposed to come up and do the reading now," and they don't know that, and it's disjointed. People are so distracted by this, they start thinking about the fact that people didn't know what they were supposed to be doing, rather than focusing on the reading or the
Yeah.
prayer or the
Right.
music or whatever it is that's supposed to be happening. And that's why you need someone who's competent to kind of keep things running, keep the train on the rails. And so part of that ownership is knowing who's best at sort of directing and giving direction on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. I mean, that kind of stuff will break the vision that was happening. It'll break the thing that you want people to come away with. And you don't want that. Nobody goes into Sunday thinking, oh yeah, it's not a big deal if people don't really pick up on what we're trying to say out of God's word this Sunday. Nobody starts a worship service thinking that. And so you just need to think about what are the ways that we could break that. How can we break what we're trying to do? And it's not that hard to overcome it. So yeah, great point, Scott. I mean, lean into skill sets, lean into people's divine design that can make that work as well as possible. Awesome. Point three. We've got to have a way of debriefing as well. We need a feedback rhythm that, again, egos aside, the people that were responsible for making things happen, or maybe even everybody that was involved in participating in the Sunday worship service, can spend just a few minutes together, either after church or the next morning or the next, the earliest opportunity to just talk about, hey, how did things go? What worked, what didn't work? And it doesn't need to be something that's every Sunday, like, okay, now we're going to enter into our critical session. I mean, hopefully there was nothing. We can just go, wow, that was awesome. Or, hey, I really love the way that you ended up saying that. The way you presented that was great. I mean, give some positive feedback to people and not just something negative. But if something broke, if something did go wrong, let's just understand what was it that happened? Is that something that was unavoidable, or is it something that we could tighten up and be able to make it work better next time?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is where an advantage of a church that has two services. I'm often aghast at the fact that churches that have two services, the ones that don't take the time to do a debrief between services. Like, what are you doing? I mean, people are hanging out in the lobby or whatever. You could do that for a little bit, depending on how much time you have between services, but just 5 minutes between or before the next service starts, or 10 minutes, huddle back up, talk through that service order one more time, or the cue sheet, and go, hey, we need to tighten this up, or don't forget this. Or maybe the pastor will go, hey, I kind of went a little long. In this service, I'm going to do something a little bit different with my application time. Or, hey, band, it'd be great if you were to come up just a little bit earlier. And you have a real time opportunity. You had a practice in first service, and you get to do it again in second service, and it's such a wasted opportunity. And the number of churches, I mean, it's just astounding to me that this isn't just something that everyone does. But you could take that, even if you don't have two services, you could apply this same logic. Make sure that every Sunday before your first service, you're also having that talk through, which you should do, which covers that ownership piece, but also is a built-in opportunity for feedback, and go, hey, last week this happened. This week we want to make sure this happens. I used to send a weekly email every Thursday to my whole team. This wasn't a church-wide email. This was just for my team. But I'd give feedback in that email. And then obviously I had feedback moments built into our worship rehearsals as well. But then also, hopefully, you have these strategic planning moments where there's times for more maybe in-depth type feedback, or maybe once a year we're kind of reflecting on the whole ministry and going, hey, here's whole ways, systems that we could improve, or new ways that we could approach things. And these things don't happen accidentally. They only happen with intention. It kind of goes back to something you were saying at the beginning there, AJ, that it's like maybe most people don't even know that there is something that's missing between their preaching and their worship ministries. And because they've never thought what could be. They're just maybe content with what is.
Yeah, maybe so. Little bonus content here, a little pet peeve from AJ, and practical recommendation. Don't rehearse your songs. Don't start your rehearsal for that Sunday an hour before church that Sunday. Can't tell you how many churches I've been to early, because we're there, a lot of times as consultants, and we're there early. And the band is up there running through a particular song 2-3 times, and it never actually worked. Like something wasn't right, and then they're out of time. And I was like, I've seen this, and I thought, surely those aren't the songs for this Sunday.
Do you mean that they're still practicing when
they're practicing right before church starts, and it never gets there? Like
they're like, we'll get it.
But surely it'll fix itself.
It'll work itself out.
We're doing it during church.
Yeah. Listen, I've been around this loop. I have a personal preference, and that's that there should be a night of the week, for us at the last church where I was on staff. And initially when I was on staff, the first year and a half or so, I was leading basically every week or mostly every week. And then after that, I was just on rotation. I oversaw that whole ministry, but I only led maybe once a month, something like that. But we had Thursday, it was Thursday nights for us. Thursday nights was band practice. And then we would run through on Sunday morning, but it was a run through and a sound check. Like we had worked out the kinks. And that's my preference. Now I recognize I've worked with enough churches. I've worked with dozens and dozens of churches, and I've heard it all. Like, and I know the reasons why sometimes Sunday morning has to be. So just make it early.
Early enough.
Early enough.
Fix
So
things,
if you have to do it,
you can do.
yeah. So if you have to do it on Sunday morning,
yes,
and your service is at 9, then you need to be there and practicing at 7.
Right. 2 hours, not 1 hour. Yeah.
Right. So that because that is annoying. When you show up, guests are showing up, people are showing up, and you're still up there practicing. Like, there's no reason for that. So even if it has to be Sunday morning that you're running through stuff, it's just got to be early enough that you're done a half hour before the service.
And man, if you're not confident that new song is ready, then call an audible and be like, okay, then we're going to do this one that we definitely know perfect. Even maybe I'm breaking the episode. Like, if you can't do that one song without it being a disaster, then do one that doesn't even.
You are breaking the episode. Sunday. The whole thing is that we're supposed to do things with intention. You're saying
forget everything we just said. Just do something that you can do well.
That's so funny. Yeah, listen, you can avoid all of that if you just pick a different night of the week.
Yeah.
To if you pick one night of the week to do your practice, you'll have it sorted. I mean, that also goes back to other things we've talked about, though. Like, if you've planned far enough in advance, then hopefully your band has gone into planning center or whatever you're using, and see this, see what's coming up, see the songs, and practice them in advance, so that hopefully by the time they're coming to rehearsal, whether that's Sunday morning or some other time, they've already looked at it.
Yeah. Maybe it's an arrangement that there's a recording of it that they can be practicing on their own. You're like, we're doing this arrangement. We're not altering. We're not doing our own version of this, so that we can practice. Practice is good.
Practice is good. Practice is really good.
All right. Yeah. Well, this was our 334th practice of the Church Revitalization Podcast. We might get it right.
You just called it Prodcast.
Prodding you along. Doing things differently.
People mess things up. You messed that up. I messed up the intro. It's okay.
That's right. We're rusty. We didn't practice before this episode.
That's a good point. It's been a little bit since we recorded.
And we've got good excuses.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to say we have touched on this topic before, and so do a quick search on our website if you want to see other episodes where we've talked about how to improve this. But this really is a missing piece. If you've never taken this seriously, now's a good time. Now's a good time to start going, all right, what if we really started to collaborate and didn't just put this thing on autopilot and begin to see the difference?
Yeah. Hey, you know what I want to talk about too? We're at the very end. This is part of my goodbye. This is part of my, hey, thanks for being with us. There's a new feature. I don't know if we haven't talked about this, Scott. My wife found this. There's a hype option on YouTube now. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you go into the comments and there's an option to hype a video.
What is that? What does that even mean?
We get points or something. Yeah. If more people hype something, YouTube boosts you in the algorithm. So check that out. Go over to the YouTube and check out the Church Revitalization Podcast.
I thought you said Facebook.
Not Facebook. YouTube. Yeah, on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, on YouTube. Go on YouTube, share, subscribe, all those normal things. Ring the bell, all the things that the creators say do. Now check in the comments. I think you have to go into comments, and there's an option to hype. You can hype the video.
I know nothing about this.
It's brand new to me too. That's why I wanted to bring it to the audience. Maybe you guys know about the hype, and you can give us some hype.
Yeah, hype us up.
Hype it up. There you go. All right. Hey, thanks for being with us. We'll see you guys next week.